Democratic strategist Douglas Farrar, former chief counsel for the House Judiciary Committee, Julian Epstein, Daily Wire White House correspondent Margaret Olohan. Nice to see you all. Margaret, ladies. First, I thought what Bannon said there was pretty interesting. The Republican operatives are freaked out. My reporting is the opposite. It's that the Republican candidates are freaked out. Members of the House and Senate that you talk to who are honest and on background will often say they're worried. It is the Republican operatives, it is the White House political team that's actually fairly confident. How do we explain the split?
Well, I think, it's only natural for these candidates to be apprehensive. They haven't gotten the money yet, right? And there's this massive war chest that the Republicans are sitting on that the president hasn't necessarily done anything yet with. But at the same time, it's true. The White House is posturing to me. Republicans posture across the board. They're very confident. They're very excited. They're looking forward to this fall. I think it was James Blair with the White House who said recently they're getting ready to open that war chest and to distribute those funds. And the White House is excited about this, and they're posturing that things will be going well once they do break that open.
Julian, it used to be that Democrats had the cash advantage. I think going back to, say, Barack Obama, 2008, it was this massive war chest. Hillary Clinton also was able to raise massive amounts of money. What's changed?
I think the party has moved very, very far to the left. Now, to your point, it's true that the individual campaign committees on the Democratic side are doing better than the Republican committees. Take Ossoff and Georgia, for example, take Tallarico. They're doing much better at the individual level. But more importantly, at the party level and super PAC level, Democrats are getting trounced. And this is important because this is a story of decay within the Democratic Party. If they are losing as badly as they are at the political campaign level, party campaign level, and super PAC, it means the party, the central purpose of the political party, the primary purpose is to raise funds. And if it can't do that, it's a sign that the party apparatus, the party infrastructure is dying. Why is that, to your question? Well, I think it's because of the rise of socialism. And when you have a nihilistic message, when you have a message that you want to tear everything down, when you are blackpilling the population, then the people that are most successful in society are going to say, you can kiss my bumper.
I think there's a point to that. But Douglas, George Soros, Michael Bloomberg, Reid Hoffman, J.B. Pritzker seems to be okay with anything that he thinks is going to get him votes to be president. Tom Steyer, borderline socialist. Alex Soros, again, borderline socialist. Dustin Moskowitz, Reed Hastings, Stephen Mandel, Donald Sussman. Where are the big Democratic donors, and why are they still sitting on the sidelines, even though for some of them the socialism thing they're kind of okay with?
Well, I think the money for the Democrats is coming in small dollar donations because people are unhappy with this administration in huge margins, and you see that in the polls. Democratic candidates have outraised in the Senate their counterparts by $200 million. So yeah, money's not flowing to the Democratic Party. People aren't super happy with the Democratic Party, but they are happy with a lot of these candidates.
Yeah, it's a good point in terms of Ossoff.
But the problem with that is overall, if you compare the money, the overall money that Democrats have compared to what the Republicans have, Democrats are getting trounced. And that is a change from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Look, money can't buy you love. I think what we're going to find out here is that when thousands and millions of people are donating $40 to candidates because they're really unhappy with the Trump economy, they're going to win the election.
But part of what money does is it drives conversation. Right? Because it's what you can go up on TV with. It's what you can advertise with. The person who can drive that are two people. Elon Musk with what's going on Twitter and Donald Trump, because he has the bully pulpit. Here he is today talking about none other than the migrants in Spain. Call them illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call. The video is astounding. Take a listen.
If we're not in office, our country will be invaded at levels that made Spain look small time. And I say, that's going to be a talking point for the midterms, is just invading the country. And what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law.
Margaret, we're going to put some of the video of the Spanish invasion, if you want to call it that, or the Moroccan invasion up. He said it right there. It is, I say, that's going to be a talking point for the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were expecting this, but I don't know if I was expecting him to say it so succinctly and so soon. J.D. Vance, I believe Marco Rubio have already talked about how this is what we would have had in our own country if President Joe Biden was still president. I mean, I saw Bill Maloogian with Fox News posting videos of the craziness we saw on the border with the thousands coming across the border and saying it's not unlike what we're seeing in this Spanish territory right now. So this is a big deal, and I think it's interesting. This is one of Trump's biggest issues. This is one of the reasons that he is president right now, on the heels of the Sophie Cunningham drama, where that also was a massive issue that helped get the president elected. Immigration and men and women's sports and gender transitions for kids. Those are some of his favorite issues to talk about because they poll so well with the base. And it's very interesting to me it's all happening right now.
But they also poll really well for Republicans with independents. They're 80-20 issues.
Yeah, I should have said that. I mean, it's across the board.
They are 80-20 issues, and the cultural revolution of the socialists, the notion of tearing down prisons, tearing down borders, all of these are 80-20, 90-10 issues. So it's not just socialism, it is third worldism, and I think this new breed is coming in. And to the point about money can't buy you love, the loss of money is a sign of a party in decay. But another sign of the party in decay is the fact that only 25, 26% of voters actually identify with the Democrats. The Democrats are not getting a lot of love from the grassroots. In fact, Democrats are at historic lows in terms of party identification. And I think a lot of that is because the working class is looking not just at the authoritarianism of socialism, but they're also looking at the cultural revolution that they do not like, on whether it's gender, whether it's borders, whether it's crime, whether it's race essentialism or gender essentialism. They don't like that
Defunding the police
stuff.
doesn't help working class Americans because they're the ones who end up getting hurt the most by it. This issue, though, about money, the fact that Democrats and the Democratic media is now focused on it and complaining, I think there's an irony and a richness to it, but it does show where the argument's going. Here we go.
Elon Musk says he's going to try to buy another election.
Take a look here. Republicans at this point, $657 million. My goodness gracious. And the Democratic National Committee, it's broke. It's basically broke.
The number is expected to be high. Now, obviously, Musk is the richest man in the world, so high could be absolutely anything.
The Democrats are in debt. They are in debt coming into August of an election year. I would say,
Douglas, when you are blaming the refs, you're losing. When you're complaining about fundraising and how the other side's spending too much money, that shows an inherent weakness.
I'm not sure that Elon Musk is any better at doing elections than he is at doing IPOs at this point, right? I mean, he got graded on a curve because Trump won. But remember what happened in Wisconsin? He ran the same playbook. $25 million in a Supreme Court seat, no Trump on the ballot. He lost by 10 points. Okay, he paid $10 million to a candidate in Kentucky who never even ended up running. He took a job in the Trump administration. He's not good at this, and he's spending it on field, which is tough because you can go pretend to knock on doors, which is what they did, and it's all sort of AstroTurf. He's trying to motivate voters who are unhappy with Trump.
I'm going to disagree with Doug on that, and Doug's a very, very smart guy who knows this stuff very well. But if you look at what Elon Musk did in Pennsylvania, money isn't just about getting message out. Money
You're saying 2024 Elon Musk.
2024. Money isn't just about message, to your point. Money is about knowing where your voters are and how to get them to the voting polls. And nobody did that better than Elon Musk in 2024 in an election where people were focused. The elections you're talking about in Wisconsin, those are low turnout elections.
Did nobody do it better than Elon Musk, or did nobody do it better than the Trump administration with Elon Musk's money?
I think a lot of it in Pennsylvania was Elon Musk. I think to ignore him is whistling past the graveyard. The other guy that was incredibly influential is Ralph Reed, Faith and Freedom Coalition, who
Reed's
got
been
to 12.
He's been a genius. Hold on,
he's a genius. He's a friend of mine, a genius. But I think to ignore it is
I got to give her the last word.
foolish.
Is the administration at all worried that Elon Musk is a net negative for them or for Republicans?
No, I mean, Elon Musk on the administration side, to your point, I think we're underestimating his social media and the impact that he had just online with young people, with independent voters, with the Maha segment, with all of these.
Do you think he still has that same?
Absolutely, and he's got that.
Still has that same political capital.
He'll be there for them.
36%. He's at 36% popularity, Elon Musk.
Huh. What are Democratic socialists at?
I guess it depends on who you're asking.
He's not on the ballot.
Mary Margaret, Douglas Farrar, Julian Epstein, thank you all.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.